like you have been in this industry for 50 years and like even more so, and even you've been crowned as the pioneer of the IT industry. Yet many people, when you reach heights, like many people slack. But despite all that, despite having, despite being so high, like despite achieving so much, you never stopped and you kept pushing your boundaries, you kept achieving more, you still hold a lot of positions. So what is it that keeps motivating you? Like, how is it that what keeps you going?
So, I've asked myself that question a lot of times, and so has my family, because one of the things you do end up doing when you start a company and you get involved in it is that your family does get neglected, whether you like it or not. And my children are still upset with me because they feel I spend so much more time with my grandchildren that I didn't spend with them. And so I hear that quite often. But that's something that I think happen. I mean, I'm sad about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. So when you say what what would you do differently? What would you? Why am I doing this? I asked myself that question a long time ago, and I thought to myself that, look, what does this country need? And I think this country needs jobs to be created. So as long as I am able to help create jobs, I think it's my responsibility to keep doing what can do that. Right. And I, again, learned this in a very difficult way. I'd gone to my alma mater, IIT Kharagpur, and I was at the guest house. And at that time, I was going through this problem about, hey, company has done enough, I've done enough, the company is growing. I still want to go back and teach and do research. So why don't I go do a PhD and blah, blah, blah. And, sometimes it's easy to talk to someone you don't know than to talk to someone you know. So there was this professor from, I think he was the University of Utah at Salt Lake City. And he was sitting across me at dinner, and we got talking, and I asked him this question. And he said, but what do you do? I said, I was telling him about HCL and how at that time we had 300 open positions and we couldn't find the right people to fill them and stuff like that. So he told me, he said, you are creating 300 jobs in this country. It's far more important to do that than to go and get a PhD and teach. He said, you're doing a lot more for India than you would if you became a professor or whatever. And that stuck with me. So that's one thing I do. The second thing I wanted to do was when I sort of retired, if I use that term, I wanted to focus on how to leverage technology in getting healthcare and education to the economically underprivileged in this country. Because if we don't do that, then this country is never going to be able to move out of the problems that we've had, that I've seen my whole life. I mean, and the digital divide will make that separation worse and worse. And you're seeing that in the US right now. So I decided to work with companies that actually were looking to provide solutions in those areas. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm basically focused with companies that are leveraging technology both in healthcare and in education. Education, we haven't been too successful because I don't think India is quite ready. The basic infrastructure just doesn't exist. So it's going to take a lot more work. But on healthcare, we are seeing some dramatic results working on infant mortality and malnutrition. And, we've done some amazing work in Rajasthan that we're now moving into Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. We are working on telemedicine, giving access, remote access to doctors working in Bihar and in Uttarakhand and UP. India is a big country. I mean, and I try and get these, I try in most cases not to be dependent on someone for grants. Then you're spending all your time trying to raise money. I try to make it self-sustaining, like a social entrepreneurship. For example, when we do telemedicine, we have an operator we call him a telemedicine operator in a village. He charges 100 rupees per consult with the doctor, right? He has to buy some equipment and all, he has to pay off his loan. But he makes 70 rupees out of that and he gives us 30 rupees. So he earns 15 to 18 to 20,000 rupees a month, right? And there are two of them normally. There has to be a lady and a person because ladies will not come to, how it is in the villages. But the earning is about in that 15 to 20,000 rupees a month, which is not bad for the village. But for us, that 30 rupees makes it self-sustainable. I don't have to ask people for money. I can go and open more and more telemedicine centers around. So it makes it self-sustaining, and and that makes life much easier in terms of you're spending your time and effort on doing what you want to do rather than trying to raise money from people who want answers and this and that and all the usual stuff. So that's what I'm doing after I sort of retired. Working with young people keeps me young. So, and working on new technologies keeps me updated. I mean, I think the world is at a point, and I'm sure your teachers will tell you this, that you have to never stop learning. The day you stop learning, you're deadwood in some form, right? Unfortunately, that's the life in IT, has been for my whole life. And today, that's the life in nearly every field. And so, universities will start doing continuous learning as part of their whatever they do with their alma mater, with their alumni, because that's going to be very, very critical in my view and very important. The other thing I've got to say is that I also did get, how should I say, motivated, inspired by my teachers. And so what I've done is, when I endowed a school of telecom at IIT Kharagpur, I named it after one of my teachers. So it's called the Professor G.S. Sanyal School of Telecommunications. And then I endowed a Center for Innovation, and that I named after another professor. It's called the Professor M.N. Farooqui Center for Innovation. And, I don't know, but I've been told that, I mean, not I've been told, now when I read that that is our culture, our history, that we, excuse me, we honor our teachers. And I think it's important because they are the ones who inspired me. So
True.